Been a little bit since I cast, so I'm going to be shaking off the rust and getting back into the swing of things like the rest of the players here, as this is the first cast for the AD2L Season 10 tournament that I will be broadcasting here live on twitch.tv/DarminCast. I am Darmin, coming to you live. Kick-Ass Patrol versus 3/5 Canadians. Here is going to be the first matchup in the entry-level bracket of, once again, the AD2L Season 10 tournament. Kick-Ass Patrol have been playing, if you've followed the cast, you know they've been playing in the AD2L League for at least the past 3 seasons, I want to say. At least past 2. I know I've cast them for at least that long. And it is the first game since the holidays. Season 9 was several months ago. They held a small winter tournament over the holiday break, but beyond that, they figured they would let us Dota players and Dota casters take a little bit of time off for the holidays and for the new year and try to pretend to be human with the rest of society, participating in family events and getting back on a regular sleep schedule. But now all that's over and we're back to serious dodo. We have AD2L kicking off here. We also have the qualifiers starting up for those of you who tune into the professional scene. You know, those have started for the next Dota major event. And I'm trying to see where they're at with those. They might actually be going on right now. The Shanghai major event is actually going on live right now. And there's some big names playing right now as they work through the qualifiers. You have E-Wolves versus Void Boys, Archon versus Leviathan. Leviathan, they were doing pretty good as of November, but it looks like they are entering some hard games here in the qualifying events. But enough about the Shanghai Major. That's not what you tuned in to learn about. Instead, you want to learn about Kick-Ass Patrol versus 3/5 Canadians. 3/5 Canadians I have not cast before to my recollection. Kick-Ass Patrol I've cast quite a bit of. And we're into our first pick here with 3/5 Canadians picking up Gyrocopter, a very popular pickup right now in 685. And one thing I'm beginning to appreciate more and more about Gyrocopter is his versatility. I've played about 12 games with him here over the past 1 or 2 months, and all of those but one, which was a 10-minute forfeit from our team because we had levers, I've won. And most of those I've actually played Gyrocopter in the middle lane. I think Flak Cannon here gives him, first off, Flak Cannon range of 1,000 is just insane. And it pretty much, even at level 1, equates to 3 free hits on your opponent. So it's good to farm. It does push out the lane a bit, but it's good to both farm and harass.
10 seconds remaining.
The bands coming out from 3/5 is going to be the Invoker and Dazzle. KAP squad responding back, banning out the Winter Wyvern and the Undying. Undying has been seen quite a bit in this patch, even though there have been nerfs to the Tombstone in 685, and as we all know, it's now based off of hit counts and not, total health. The Undying has still seen popularity in the pro circuit because he's still a force to be reckoned with in teamfight situations. Sure, the early Tombstones are pretty weak, but the later Tombstones aren't weak at all, and they last just as long as they used to, if not longer, because of that hit count versus HP change. Winter Wyvern, however, has been nerfed quite a bit. So now his? I don't know the gender of Winter Wyvern. I want to say her. She's got a slender face. Let's go with the her. Her ultimate now locks down enemy heroes, but it doesn't incapacitate an entire team like it used to.
10 seconds remaining.
I forget the exact phrasing on the spell.
5 seconds
But
remaining.
long story short, it doesn't let your team kill all the outlying heroes as well as the center hero. I'll have to look for that specific patch change, but it pretty much makes the outer heroes immortal, gives them an attack speed boost, and that's the only damage you can do to that central hero. KAP keeping their cards close to the vest here with their beginning 2 picks. They have a Crystal Maiden and Keeper of the Light, so their team is going to have mana for days. Between Crystal Maiden's Arcane Aura and, of course, Chakra from Keeper of the Light, they'll be able to pump mana into whoever they want. So I would like to see the KAP Rookies squad take advantage of that surplus in mana and pick up some heroes that have a need for it. Speaking of being rusty at casting, I believe my mic is not open, so let's open that up. For those of you tuning in game, sorry about that. Had a little bit of audio brain farting, let's call it, and didn't have the open mic on. But what are you doing watching in game when you could watch my amazing camera work that's being streamed over twitch.tv/DarminCast. Going into the second set of bans, it looks like 3-Fist Canadian is banning out some of the tankier heroes in the game, getting rid of the Bristleback and the Razor, who can build pretty tanky and just siphon off all of his damage. And the KAP squad getting rid of the Spider and the Earthshaker. Not sure why they're going with that one. Presumably to... yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they're just afraid of the Broodmother and don't want to have to deal with it. But they have decent wave clear with the Keeper of the Light, who, if you have Keeper in the safe lane, which would make sense, he'd be able to just blast down those spider waves with relative ease. But
10 seconds remaining.
It's not going to be a thing they need to worry about because they get rid of them. And they pick up instead the Spirit Breaker, who I suspect we'll see in the off lane. Always a fun hero to cast, always a fun hero to watch. He just makes a mess of things, charging here, there, and everywhere. So we'll see if he's going to be able to land his stuns, his 17% stuns. For those of you who are fans of DotaBuff.com, they just did a big article. I shouldn't say big article. They just wrote a normal size article on pseudo random mechanics. So for heroes like Phantom Assassin, who has a crit percentage, it's a pseudo random mechanic, versus Spirit Breaker's Greater Bash, which is a straight chance to bash at 17%. And they actually did the math on it, and at one point in a pro game, Spirit Breaker was able to land 3 consecutive stuns in a row, which, since it's not a pseudo-random ability, he has a 1 in 200% chance to get 3 stuns in a row like that. Whereas if it was pseudo-random, how that works, it's kind of a tapered system. So every time you strike and don't bash or don't crit, it increases the chances of you bashing or critting until it occurs, and then it resets the counter. For a pseudo-random mechanic, it would have been about 1 in 10,000, so it's a pretty substantial difference, and it's one of the reasons I and many others out there shout 17% every time you see a clutch Spirit Breaker bash.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
3-Fist Canadian picking up Puck, presumably for that mid lane. One of my personal favorite heroes, and currently one of the favorite heroes of Team Na'Vi, who have been picking it regularly. They've been going with the 1-2 combo of Undying and Puck, and they've been doing okay with it. This is going to mean that 3-Fist Canadian is going to have quite a bit of initiation as well as a bit of sustain, because they will have the Omni Knight ultimate, they'll have Puck's phase shift, and then they're going to have just a mess of AoE damage coming out from Flak Cannon, Call Down, Ice Shard, Snowball,
Entire team
Omni
banned.
Knight's heal, and pretty much all of Puck's abilities. So, Kick-Ass Patrol is going to be looking for the pickoffs by the looks of things. They're going to look to catch people out with the Spirit Breaker, catch people out with the Juggernaut Omni Slash, and see if they
10
can't
seconds
drop them
remaining.
before they're able to group up.
5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
I'm getting confirmation here from Twitch chat that Winter Wyvern is indeed a girl.
Radiant
Winter
team
Wyvern's
pick.
name is Aroth? Auroth. I am completely terrible with lore and everything else, so I will leave it to Twitch chat. If they say that's the name and that's the gender, I agree without
10
question,
seconds remaining.
because Twitch chat is never wrong.
5 seconds remaining.
So shout out to Steel Dota. Thank you for looking that up for me. Or just knowing it off the top of your head like a weirdo.
Reserve time.
And Alchemist banned out by 3/5, and Nyx Assassin banned out by the Kick-Ass Patrol team. Alchemist is definitely one of the most annoying mid-heroes to go up against as a Puck, because you're not able to phase shift dodge any of those big nukes. You can, possibly get away from an unstable concoction, but a lot of
10 seconds
Alks
remaining.
just go Goblin's Greed into the Acid Spray,
Entire team pick.
and you can't phase shift an Acid Spray. You can, however, phase shift a Breathe Fire if you're quick about it. It's got a pretty short cast animation, so Dragon Knight might still be able to land it the majority of the time, but it's a mechanic that Puck will be able to dodge if he's quick enough.
10 seconds remaining.
Taking a look across the board here, it looks like Dragon Knight's
5
going to
seconds
be
remaining.
one of the few heroes who actually will benefit from all this mana.
Reserve
Depending
time.
on how they lane this, I'm always a big fan of the Crystal Maiden Juggernaut combination, because you're able to freeze people in place and get those big spins off. And Shadow Fiend is the final pickup from 3/5 Canadians, so I suspect we'll probably see Shadow Fiend mid with a Puck off lane. I don't know. Be interested to see how they lane this. I can't imagine Shadow Fiend would be. He can't be safe lane. I'm imagining safe lane's going to Gyrocopter, Shadow Fiend taking the mid, which leaves Puck in the off lane and a roaming Tusk, presumably. I guess we will find out. So,
Prepare for battle.
let me check in my audio just one more time here. Yeah. There. Should be open all the time. I don't know. Unless party is not the one I want. Am I supposed to be doing the other one? Team? Let's do team and see how that works. Sorry about the behind the scenes audio troubleshooting stuff here, guys. It's all the fun of a caster. And as we get underway here,
30 seconds to battle.
Omni Knight commenting on the bullet being in place for Kick-Ass Patrol. And we have an engagement here from LC as he dives onto the Omni Knight, but Easy is going to be there with the Rocket Barrage to try to create some space. Trigonometry spinning into enemy territory, but looks like right now they're just going to be trading some blows, nothing too major, and they'll reset and head back into the runes. Apologize once again, just trying to make sure my audio levels are somewhat decent here for this first game. Like I said, shaking off the cobwebs. So going through introductions here, you have, of course, Dr. Dread playing a Crystal Maiden, one of his favorite heroes. He has a ton of games played on that hero. Alongside him in this safe lane, you have 17 Shortcuts playing the Keeper of the Light, and Chickonometry playing the hard carry Juggernaut. You're going to have an offensive tri-lane here, meeting Dread in the forest, and now Chickonometry is getting snowballed onto. Nope, Keeper of the Light who's going to eat that one. And now Tusk is going to fall back to the safety of the Omni Knight heal. I'd like to continue introductions, but this lane down here is just a little bit too dangerous to step away from just yet. You have the level 1 Mana Leak on Keeper of the Light being cast onto EZ, who stops in his tracks to prevent too much mana loss. But Chickonometry, on the other hand, is completely out of mana. Crystal Maiden, not yet level 2, doesn't have that point into Arcane Aura, so he's going to be dry until his 2 supports can get at least one more level behind him. So continuing introductions here, as Tusk places an aggressive ward to keep tabs on those supports. You have Chickonometry eating a lot of damage from EZ, and a big snowball coming in from Tusk, and a small body block there from Keeper of the Light keeps Chickonometry in the danger zone as Gyrocopter walks forward with the forgetting the name of Rocket Barrage. There we go. But ultimately, First Blood is not spilled. He steps away, salves up, and he's good to go again. So that should buy me a small breather to introduce the rest of the team here. We have Silky Johnson playing Dragon Knight in the middle lane, trying to chase down this top rune at the 2-minute mark, and he is going to be able to secure it in the top lane. Of course, I step away, and there it is. I apologize for the tours, folks, but you had the Gyrocopter picking up the First Blood there against the Keeper of the Light. Now maybe, just maybe, there'll be a break. And in the off lane we have Elsie playing the Spirit Breaker. And that wraps up the Kick-Ass Patrol squad as Keeper of the Light rotates into the middle lane to provide some mana to Silky. On the opposing squad, in this aggressive tri-lane, we have EZ playing the Gyrocopter, Jesus, a stand-in playing the Omni Knight, and falling back behind the tower here as he savors the remainder of his Clarity Potion. You have Bambo, I presume his name is supposed to be, playing the Tusker as he rolls into Dr. Dread, and you have a spin going down on EZ, and he is going to be able to finish him, as Tusk was initially chasing after Keeper of the Light, but he resets his focus on the Juggernaut, and Chickonometry putting on his dancing shoes in the jungle, and he's going to be able to juke and jive and make his way back to the safety of his allies and get out just fine. But the fight's not over yet as Gyrocopter teleports back into the lane and immediately gets sucked up into a snowball. And down goes the Keeper of the Light for the second time. Gyrocopter trying to finish off Dr. Dread here with the flak cannon range, but he just didn't have the line of sight to be able to let that flak cannon shot make its way. He was definitely in range, but just didn't have the line of sight. Checking out the other lanes here momentarily, you have Marvmeister playing the Shadow Fiend in the middle lane, eating a stun from Silky Johnson as he walks forward, but he's not going to have any more mana to follow this up with, so Mary will be able to fall back. A little worse for wear, but he's got a bottle with a rune in it. He's got plenty of stuff to heal up, and he's going to opt to use the healing salve. In the top lane, playing the solo safe lane position is going to be Puck, played by Calypsis. Take a quick look at the net worth. Let's check out the last hits. Your two leaders are those mid heroes there, but following right behind and now taking second place is Chickonometry in the safe lane. We have suggestions from the audience here stating that this is one of those games where Keeper of the Light needs to pick up a Divine Rapier. And personally, I think every game is a Divine Keeper game. Silky jumping into his ultimate form, and he gets off the breath at the last second there, killing Shadow Fiend, but the cast animation had already gone off for his Shadow Rays. And so LC shows up to the lane, gets himself a little bit of farm, which is going to buy space for Puck to farm up himself. A lot of Fairy Fires being seen on the side of Three Fists Canadians so far this game. And both teams fighting over runes, getting them pretty much on cooldown. So they're not lasting long out there. But now Bambo heading back into the lane is going to run into Chickonometry and the Crystal Maiden. So far, Dr. Dread is eating a lot of damage, and an excellent Ice Shards is going to block Dread from being able to escape back down to the tower. So now the chase is on, but there is the level 1 Degen Ore, which is slowing down Silky and Jugs. Stuns on targets, and so is the Breath, and that'll be Dragon Knight's second kill in not as many minutes. And not as many minutes. That's a correct phrase, right? When you're trying to say in about a minute, you say in not as many as 2 minutes. Procaster. Watch out, TI5, TI6, and beyond. I should be like, watch out, TI2. Do the observers get an item for first blood? I mean, I could share some of this Mountain Dew with you. Oh, mouse got away from me. That's a true tour there. Got two heroes in the middle here as Mervmeister and Silky square off. Dr. Dread standing in the backgrounds though, not letting Shadow Fiend play too aggressive, but the Shadow Races are going to be there. The right click almost drops him, and I saw him at 9. Does he have an urn? How did... I missed something. But they will get a return kill for it as LC charges into the bot rune area and secures Chickonometry a kill against Tusk. I am baffled as to how he died there. Maybe Twitch Chat can help me with that one too. Teach me my dodo. How is Shadow Fiend able to kill the Dragon Knight with not being near him and not attacking him? He's got no burn mechanics. I don't know. Unless I just missed the right click somewhere, which is equally possible. And Merv picking up the Invis Rune, heading into this bot lane. They have no reveal. And so the snowball is going to be coming in. And they were looking for Keeper of the Light, but slightly off target, and they catch Shadow Fiend trying to work his way into the team. He eats a big Omni Slash, so this gank not going the way of Three Fist Canadians quite yet, and they're not done. They're going to be able to catch out Tusk as he decides to take his death like a man and charges forward towards the Crystal Maiden, trying to finish her off in return, but the kill's not going to be there for him, and now Silky Johnson joins the fight in dragon form. With all 5 heroes from Kick-Ass Patrol in this bottom lane, I imagine we're going to see them pushing forward. Try to take this tower with the use of the DK ultimate.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And the 2 supports hanging back by the healing ward of Juggernaut as the carries push forward here. So he doesn't have a ton of time left on his ultimate, but and the tower's at full health, so we'll see how much they can do here.
Tower is under attack.
While Tusk picks up a double damage. And right now, in the top lane, Puck's still hanging out, and he has since taken the lead in terms of last hits. and approaching the lead for Network, but we'll see that chart flip here shortly as the Kick-Ass Patrol team take the first tower of the game and the first tower of AD2L Season 10. And quickly they make rotations into this middle lane here to go up against Shadow Fiend, Keeper of the Light. I thought I saw him throw out the Mana Leak there, but it was quickly removed by the Omni Knight Repel, and with Tusk holding on to that double damage hanging out on their side of the river, it's a good thing KAP did not choose to chase and engage. We got a charge coming out from Bristle back onto the puck here. The phase shift stops the first one and immediately silenced to prevent any sort of ult shenanigans. So puck not having any of it. Excellent reaction time by Calypsis, showing the valuable evasion that is puck. Yes, you will be TI caster, huh? Good to hear. I haven't gotten my invitation letter yet, since, you know, they haven't sent them out, but I'm sure I will get one for my casual amateur Dota casting. Mervmeister, sitting on his side of the river, thinks he's safe, but he's spotted out by an enemy ward. He's going to be charged by LC and finished off by Keeper Dragon Knight. So plenty of damage all around there. Now Puck's deciding he's the bigger dragon in this fight and takes the fight to Kick-Ass Patrol. And so far, Silky's managed to stay alive, but he'll ultimately fall here to the Omni Knight right click, as in the background, Puck and Crystal Maiden duke it out, and Puck, being the evasive little hero he is, he orbs to the safety of his side of the river and falls back, so it's going to be a 2-for-1 trade. You had the Shadow Fiend and the Tusk falling, but so did the Dragon Knight. So on paper, so far, it actually favors Kick-Ass Patrol, and if this tower falls, it's definitely going to be in their favor as they look to make a go on Mervmeister. Dr. Red eating a lot of tower damage as he tries to walk in there and, I don't know, melee the Shadow Fiend down. He's ultimately going to fall now. The chase is on as Easy tries to chase down the Juggernaut, but he has phase boots. He'll pop those. He'll be able to get to safety. Meanwhile, the rest of the KAP team are trying to remain focused on objective Dota, but LC eating a lot of damage here, and Easy returns to the mid tower to scare off the remainder of the team, preserving the tower. But again, it's another 2-for-1 fight going the way of Kick-Ass Patrol, and they're not taking any true damage to their cores here. They lost Dragon Knight the first round, and they lost Crystal Maiden the second time here. Dr. Dread popping his ult to ensure that Gyrocopter doesn't get away. He looked pretty dead, but better safe than sorry. And that kill going to Silky Johnson.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
So puts a scoreboard at 12-7. 5 of those 12 going to the middle Dragon Knight.
Middle tower is under attack.
And this should be a secured tower here as the two supports look to right click it down, but Cardi's doing his work and is able to steal the deniable tower away from Jesus and Bambo. Right underneath their noses. Meanwhile, Trigonometry heading into his own jungle, clearing out some neutral stacks of his own. These two support heroes need to be very careful because they're going up against the Tusk, and they don't have a ton of right-click damage, but they do have the ability to slow them down, freeze them in place. They threw the Mana Leak on there. But the heal from Omni Knight, I believe, is going to be enough to get him to safety. He throws out the Frozen Sigil just for good measure, and I'm not sure what he was trying to do in the Radiant Ancient area. He did pretend to drop the Observer Ward, and that got the reactionary sentry from Kick-Ass Patrol, but I guess just baiting out a useless ward. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Easy and Calypsis taking the first Radiant tower of the game off the map. While Trigonometry pushes the bottom lane. And now Calypsis is finally going to make some rotations. He did use his Dream Coil. I didn't see where that one got thrown. Okay, I'm being told that the Siege Creep was the one who was able to make contact and finish off the Dragon Knight in the middle lane. When I was wondering how Shadow Fiend was able to get that kill, it was the Siege Creep. That makes sense. Okay. I feel better. Because I was very perplexed by that. Elsie charging onto Bambo here, but his allies are a little bit too far behind him, and he decides not to dive too deep. Mervmeister being caught out here by 17 shortcuts. He's going to eat a Mana Leak and a Blind. He jukes the ultimate, but for now he's not going to catch it. He's stepping forward, throwing out the call down, and Keeper of the Light's going to get caught between the call down and the Ice Shards, but now it's Dr. Dread's turn to cast his ultimate, and standing tall through all the damage coming out from Shadow Fiend. He's going to soften up the 3/5 Canadian squad as Silky Johnson and Trigonometry surge forward and secure 4 kills for 2 so far, and they looked like they were possibly on the hunt for the 5th and final, but deciding instead to ping out Roshan, and not having the damage yet, they ping out the middle lane. So, yet another big team fight going the way of Kick-Ass Patrol as Dr. Dread surges behind the tower here. He's going to catch out Mervmeister and keep him in place long enough for Juggernaut and Dragon Knight to get there, do the damage, and finish him off. Meanwhile, Spirit Breaker charging forward, decides to call it off as Easy and Jesus show up to defend their siege unit. In the top lane, you have Puck going on Keeper of the Light, and between all of his spells, I think he's going to be able to get it here. He is blinded, so the missed chances are there, and it buys enough time for the remainder of the KAP squad to rotate in, kill off the Puck, and save the life of 17 Shortcuts, who is now going to hobble his way back to base. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, you have Bambo pushing solo, trying to get some damage done to this bottom tower. As they saw all 5 heroes in the top lane, he knows he has some space and some time. But the KAP squad is going to try to respond by taking a tower of their own. Happy to trade it to this point, as they have a slight advantage in map control. 17 Shortcuts playing a bit aggressive here as he surges forward and throws a Mana Leak out on Mervmeister, utilizing that invisibility rune that he was able to find. He throws a second one on there just for good measure. He doesn't have his ultimate yet, so he can't ultimate and blind push him away for the forced burn. Puck is going to make another go at him, this time a little less aggressive, just blinking forward, silencing, and then orbing away. So not putting himself in any true danger. He eats the Mana Leak, but just holds his ground, knowing his allies are right behind him. What they need to be careful of is that most of the KAP squad is here as well. So this could turn very bloody very quickly.
Radiant's middle tower has been denied.
And so that middle tower is going to be denied by Keeper of the Light as Mervmeister rotates to the top lane to prevent any damage from occurring to their tier 2 tower. Both teams pinging stuff out here. You have some stacks being built up by Bambo, presumably for Mervmeister there to recover a little bit. He hasn't had a terrible game, but right now they're starting to lose map control as Kick-Ass Patrol push forward and look to take the first tier 2 tower of the game here. But big call down coming down from LC is going to land on 2, and the damage is going to hit Dr. Dread as Bambo rolls forward and interrupts that CM ultimate. Puck throwing out his ultimate against 2, and it's going to cause the death of LC here, but Chicanometry and Silky Johnson holding strong and finishing off the Shadow Fiend, who had kind of flanked the Kick-Ass Patrol team there. And it's another 4-for-2 trade. You lose the Crystal Maiden, you're never too worried about that. You lose LC on the Spirit Breaker, and that's not too bad of a loss either when you're claiming the Tusker, the Gyrocopter, the Shadow Fiend, and the Omni Knight, as well as a tower. So, Kick-Ass Patrol looking to keep the pedal to the metal here as they head into the bottom lane. DK still has about a quarter of his ultimate left, and they're going to burn right through this tower by the looks of things. Cleaving, blasting, and fire breathing the wave away. It's going to make short work of the tower defense here, and 3-5 Canadians just let that one fall. So, what started off bad as a 4-for-2 trade turns terrible when you factor in the extra 2,000 gold heading in favor of Kick-Ass Patrol from the 2 towers. And you can see that net worth chart reflecting that.
Double damage.
They go from about a 6k lead to about an 8k lead. And that'll be increased even more here as they look to take Roshan. Now, 3-5 Canadians have to know this is going on. They see Crystal Maiden walking in there with her Arcana Dog, and they are going to look to make a defense out of this. Got BKBs popped by Silky Johnson as he walks out, meets Bambo in the field, but he's going to snowball in and head towards Dr. Dread, who was ulting there. And from the high ground, we have Gyrocopter throwing out his ultimate and heading down into the fray. Puck phase shifting at the last second here. Casting his orb, but still it's Kick-Ass Patrol managing to stay alive at every juncture here. Looking for just one kill this fight. Puck turns around and daggons Chicanometry in the face. But that's a 4-for-0 exchange. And 3,300 gold in favor of Kick-Ass Patrol, as well as 4,000 experience.
No sorceries available.
Even with the sustain coming out from Omni Knight, there's just seems to be more on the side of Kick-Ass Patrol between the healing ward on the Juggernaut and just the raw tankiness of Dragon Knight. You can see here it looks like he's going for the Assault Kuros, and he's sitting on 30 armor already. So it's going to be hard for any hero to right-click him down. Oh, I am forgetting one critical thing as a caster. And I think we all know what that is. That is, of course, the Darmin cast overlays. Can't have a Darmin cast without the Darmin overlays. Then it's just a regular cast. And who wants that? Alright. Back into the game here, so after it looked like 3 excuse me, 3 consecutive team fights going the way of Kick-Ass Patrol, they're now in the lead 26-12 on the scoreboard, and they've catapulted themselves from what was a 5k advantage to about a 13k advantage. KAP playing very aggressive here and even trying to deprive Mervmeister of the ability to farm Ancient. He's forced to teleport back to base just to prevent LC from reaching him and landing that Spirit Breaker stun. Meanwhile, Calypso's heading back into the top lane here. That was his home for the first about 12-13 minutes of the game. Pretty much uncontested too, as LC was charging around. We'll pick up a little bit more farm for himself so he can get to that level 2 Dagon, presumably. He picked up the Blink Dagger in good time, but now it's going to be slowed down as the entire middle lane has been demolished by Kick-Ass Patrol, who have fallen back to their side of the map as well. So both teams playing defensive here. You have Three Fist Canadians hanging out in their jungle. You have Easy farming up, but being constantly flanked by multiple support heroes in case there are any shenanigans and he does get into danger. Calypsis hanging out nearby as well, farming the lane, so there's plenty of protection to be had for Easy as he farms and protects. But as he does this, there's a split XP, and you're only getting farm on Gyrocopter. Meanwhile, you have Kick-Ass Patrol kind of split up. They had LC farming the top. You have 17 Shortcuts just pushing out the bottom wave by himself as Keeper of the Light, getting some farm on him. You have Dr. Dread farming the jungle here. So just everyone's split up, everyone's getting a little bit of farm, everyone's getting a little bit of experience. Versus Three Fist Canadians, who are so terrified to leave that they're actually in their base right now because they saw most of Kick-Ass Patrol fall off the map as those middle heroes disappeared, and they just don't know where they're at right now. You can see their vision.
Silence.
Excuse me, got something in my throat. Their vision was pretty limited, but some of the words coming out here is giving them about a third of the map of protection. Calypsis is the only one adventurous enough to hang out beyond that point because of Puck's natural evasion. They're able to spot LC out on the map, and he's pinged out by Puck. But it's just a notification thing as Easy heads into this bottom lane to farm up a little bit, but then the Kick-Ass Patrol team emerged from the fog of war and started surging forward towards this tier 3 tower, and it looks like they are ready to go, ready to push high ground. Ice Shards being cast by Bambo, and a big call down going to land on 4 heroes. The first rocket hitting, the second rocket hitting, but Silky able to pop BKB before any damage, but it's Dr. Dread on the Crystal Maiden, who's acting as the frontline tank for this Kick-Ass Patrol squad, and he's going to get absolutely crushed between the Three Fist Canadians squad and the Dragon Knight. But that's, again, a trade they're willing to make, and once again it's the Spirit Breaker, LC, and the Crystal Maiden combination giving up their lives for the good of the team, and they take another 5-man team wipe. They take the mid-racks, and Three Fist Canadians going to call it a game there, having lost the past 4 or 5 team fights in a row. And that's going to be game 1 and the first game of this series and the first game of AD2L Season 10 going into the pocket of Kick-Ass Patrol. So congratulations to them. Chickonometry, Silky Johnson both had outstanding games. See Juggernaut there going 10-1 and 12, so he was a fair number of the fights, as was Dragon Knight. I'll tip my hat to Puck. He was able to get as much farm as he could with the space that he had, falling on his team just shy of Shadow Fiend on the Mervmeister. But there was just too many towers that fell too early. Three Fist Canadians weren't able to defend against the raw push from Kick-Ass Patrol. You had Crystal Maiden locking down heroes, Dragon Knight pushing towers, Juggernaut chasing down heroes and Omni slashing. If they got away, Spirit Breaker was there to charge, all the while Keeper of the Light just blasting down waves, making sure that the creepy equilibrium was always on the dire side of the map. So thank you for tuning in. I am Darmin. This is Darmincast, coming to you live on twitch.tv/Darmincast. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to cast Game 2 of this matchup. So if you're interested in that, feel free to tune in game. Otherwise, on stream here, I am going to be switching over and I will be casting, I believe it is Fire Starters versus Empower. Fire Starters are the team who won Season 9, the Heroic Tournament bracket. They won the whole thing. They came in first place. So they've been playing, no pun intended, like a team on fire. So definitely ones to keep an eye for, keep an eye out for here in Season 10 as they look to enter their first game of the season as well. So I'm going to throw it over to some music here for just a few minutes, and we'll be back in just a bit to watch that game. So stay tuned, and thanks for tuning in. See you soon.